Hey,
Hi,
hello.
Billy. Oh boy. Listen, sir.
How you doing,
Wait, I'm
man?
going to put my background versus your background here.
Yeah, I think yours
No,
wins.
nice belt. So, anyway, I guess we're looking for Walter to join in.
Yeah, we're still waiting for Walter. I've sent him the link.
What we were wondering is, because we want to share, and Walter didn't know. He thought he was hosting, and he's not, which is fine. But
Okay.
only the host can record. Can you record? Send it
Yes.
to us. Because we're pushing and promoting and talking and having all kinds of fun.
Yeah.
We've had a number of shows or conventions that have done, virtual shows, and so we have fun and we play them on the stream and good things like that. That's all. And well, each one of us has a tie on, but I think Walter's more likely to be in stripes.
Yes. Hopefully he's in the stripes. I think we want the stripes.
Yeah, we always want the stripes.
Yeah, very much. Okay, Walter's. Hold on, Walter. Let me have you say that out loud for our friends to hear. Go ahead now.
I was trying to do Zoom on my cell phone, but for some reason it's not working properly, so I have to go back to my computer. It's taking about 5 minutes, 6 minutes to get there. So you can do the show and the interview and the interaction, and when I get on the computer in a few minutes, I'll join you. And it's not working. It's not working on my cell phone.
That's okay. They heard what you said and they've cut the stream now, so you blew it. All right.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll keep them entertained till then. So that's all. Yeah, we've done a number of virtual shows because in an effort to just try to keep people, and keep the shows in their minds. And actually, some of them have gone rather well. So I was really pleased when Jimmy told me that this was going to be happening. So.
Yeah. I've done a couple with I've done one with Phil Day already. It isn't out yet. It'll probably be coming out after this one. I've interviewed Colin as well as a couple other people for tests.
When did you speak to Phil?
Sorry?
When did you speak to Phil?
Last Saturday.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, you've been preparing a while then.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been nailing down the format and whatnot, but obviously you and Walter being the magnitude of people in this scene that you are, this will hopefully, this will be the first episode that we drop to help launch what will be an ongoing interview series.
It's funny, I was going to tell Jimmy that there's a rumor going around, big rumor and a lot of questions, and basically they're saying that the reason why it was canceled this year, they said that I bribed them. The reason why I bribed them was, you see, I became the title holder about a year ago, and since we canceled this one, I'll hold the title for 2 years.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Jimmy did that as a favor to help me out. That's a rumor. I don't know.
Well, you'll be the first person to hold the title for 2 years, Bill.
Yeah, that's true. And I think if you look it up online, somewhere there's some knucklehead who either has said that, or it doesn't matter. We could say it here, and somewhere somebody's going to believe it. It's a lot of fun.
Now it's official now. We've said it.
That is the official story. You heard it here first.
We said it. They're talking about it.
I make it a point, whenever I do a fun interview like this, Jimmy noticed when I did the Southern Pride Gaming Expo, when I've done a few, I always have the belt there. So yeah, it's always fun.
Yeah, I saw a video very recently. What was that for? That was your reinstatement of the scores, and you had the wonderful Kong off belt there, which is fantastic.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. So I guess
we always talk about Jimmy and the Kong off. I mean, the Kong off is 2 days of a 10-day event he does. So there is a lot more to talk about than just the Kong off.
Yeah. So I guess we'll do a little bit of an introduction for those who perhaps don't know who you are. I don't know why they would be, part of this community if they don't know who you are. But obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, but you held the Donkey Kong world record for 25 years.
Well, I always say for more than 2 decades.
For more than 2 decades, absolutely. Which is huge. The score you set was back in the 80s, and it was unreachable at that time for any other normal player.
Right, in 1982, so the world's come together. 1982 is when we had that Life magazine photo shoot, and that is considered by everyone in the industry and historians as the very first gathering of competitive game players. Therefore, it is considered the birth of competitive gaming, therefore considered the birth of esports. And it was at that event that I hit the kill screen. Now, I had hit it back at home prior to that, but back then you had to do scores live. There was no Twitch. And so there in front of what was considered, say, the 20 best players in the world and the cameras of Life magazine right there inside of Walter's Arcade, yes, I hit it. And that score, as far as under those conditions and all, yeah, it was after the year 2000.
Yeah.
And I always just be vague because, you know, one guy did do it and video recorded it, even though back then video recording wasn't allowed. Another guy did it, video recording again. That was Steve. He set in a recording, but then he actually did that one you see in the movie. He actually did that one live in 2005. So I'm vague because I don't want people to say I favor one guy or the other, you know.
We're actually just talking earlier this morning about the Time magazine shoot and how you can actually notice in the background of your photos, you can see the little stuffed gorilla in the background. Can you tell us a bit about that and how that came to be?
Yeah, that was just a gift that was given to me, like when I was much younger. And so I went there and I had the silly stuffed animal. And so I put it at different places at different times. And it had no other meaning other than that. But I guess because somehow that gave it meaning, it became so important that somebody stole it from me. Who knows where it is?
Oh, no. Oh, that's
Yeah. Yeah, these things happen.
Can we just go back to that score that you set in 1982? And the fact that was a live score and it was a kill screen score, that would have been the very, very first kill screen that most people, that probably anyone else in the room had ever seen. That would have been the first live kill screen. What was the atmosphere around that?
Well, it's funny you say that because so you have what's considered the 20 best or so players in the world in one place, and no matter what or where you turned in the arcade at different times, you were at a moment of awe as to what you were looking at. I can think of a guy who was playing Centipede. I can think of a guy who was playing Berserk. Donkey Kong Jr. kill screens were done at that event as well. And just to show you the comparison, a Donkey Kong kill screen, I did it in 1982, sure. But it was more than 20 years later before the number 2 guy came. Well, Donkey Kong Jr. came out only 1 year later than Donkey Kong. It came out in 1982, and at that event in 1982, there were 3 different guys who hit a kill screen. Shows you how much harder one is than the other, as a comparison. But going back to the atmosphere that you're talking about, there in the arcade, everybody's playing. It's arcades back then were like rock concerts. I mean, it was elbow to elbow, going brushing up against people. And when somebody did something powerful, the crowd would gather at that particular machine. I remember giving counsel to the guy on Donkey Kong Jr. because I knew there was a kill screen coming, and everybody's attitude is, "What do you mean there's a kill screen? What is that?" Because it was the same format as Donkey Kong. But as I was playing, it's funny you mention it. For months, there was like this cat and mouse game I was playing with Steve Sanders, the guy you see in the movie. Everybody thinks he claimed 3 million points. He eventually did. But at that point, he was claiming 1,400,000. And it was a cat and mouse. I couldn't get to the guy. Now, finally, we're both at the same event. And I mean, I got him pinned. I mean, he's there. He can't get away. And so we decide we're going to play. and he plays a game first, and he got 190,000, and I know that's 190,000, but back then 190,000 would turn heads in every arcade in the world, and you'd be the center of attention. Okay, so he's done, and he got up, and I obviously had some kind words for him, and I just thought in my mind, sit down, and he sat down, and I got 849,000 on my first guy. But I'm sitting there playing, and it's 100 and 200, that's okay, and 3 and 4, and the place is quieter and quieter. And at about 500,000, I looked around, not one single game in the entire place was being played by not even one person. And not one person was standing in that arcade that wasn't standing behind me with the eyes glued. And that's 500,000 and 6 and 7 and 800,000. And it was 874 when the kill screen came. And again, everybody was like, what is that? What is that? What happened? And again, there was a kill screen prior to that on Donkey Kong Jr. So there was some understanding by a few of us. But I easily say, that moment, that competitive burst that just came through that is what forever put me in the direction of competitive gaming. I mean, I had that. I'm the first one to tell you I had good fortune. I mean, but I stole the show, and I had a passion. I wanted more and more and more. I think if I went there and crashed and burned, I would have just went to something else in life. But it was incredible. And I knew what I knew when I got the score, and I knew what I knew about the other guy. But I'm not a, regardless of what you see in the films, I'm not an in-your-face kind of guy. And I just shrugged my shoulders, and I never spoke about what he did or didn't do or could or couldn't do. I never did. People were talking, searching for the answers. Wow, how did he get past that screen? What do you got to do to get past that? No, man, you had 3 guys left. And the answer was like this. And I didn't have an understanding as to why it happened yet. So he left there. And when he left there, in an effort to discourage me, and he told me this later, well, he was saying, Bill, I'm telling you, and I told Walter, I'm going for 2 million points on Kong. He did. He said that to me. And I was like, well, when he left, between the time of the events and when the magazine came out, because back then there was time, about a month and a half. During that time period, he went to a bowling alley where he said he played, and he said he got 3,165,000. And he turned that in, and it was just in time for Life magazine to print the 3 million point score. But actually, at the Life magazine event, he was claiming 1,493,000. It's kind of funny. You can ask him. He's as honest as the day comes. He just kind of goes like this: I was a kid and I was stupid. But he doesn't remember these details, and Walter doesn't remember these details. I do. Okay, we all played at level 22. At 1,165,000, he said he got to level 85. Okay, but what he said was the reason why he got past level 22 was because he got to it on his first guy.
Right.
And that allowed him to pass through it. Well, the whole world, with the exception of me, believed him. But I had to get up there and I had to play. And eventually I got there on my first guy, crashed and burned, and I'm just shaking my head. And but before I would say or do anything stupid as the months went on, because again, I'm not that kind of guy, regardless of what you think. But he wrote a letter to everybody. He told me first verbally on the phone, and then he wrote a letter to everybody involved, apologizing to him, apologizing for what he did. And his actual true, and he doesn't remember this either, his true high score, he said in the letter, was 550,000, which when he thinks about different excuses, and they're legitimate excuses as to why he did it, he was writing a book, and he put out Video Master's Guide to Donkey Kong. Well, when he put that book out, you would put a book out and it would go into print. It took 6 months to print something back then in a mass production. So his score was climbing, and he calculated in his head, where would his score be in 6 months? And he thought he could get that high, and he thought, therefore, he would be telling the truth. And he got caught caught in it, and that's what happened. And I remember he wanted to write a book on Miss Pac-Man, and at the time I had the world record at 703,000. And he goes, yeah. He goes, but where do you think you'll be in 6 months? He goes, you'll be over 1 million for sure. And I go, yeah, I guess I would be. He goes, well, that's what we got to put. And I go, no. I mean, I was going to get stung where he got stung. Well, the world record today isn't even 1 million. It's I mean, my high score is 904. So, I understand his logic for doing it, but no, it would sting you. It's sting him.
I just want to clarify for those listening, his claim back in the 80s of 1.4 million, the high score at the moment, the most recent one taken by Robbie Lakeman was only 1.2 million, if I
correct.
Yeah. So
yeah, and so he it's actually 1,493,000.
Okay.
So the first time I called Twin Galaxies, lady named Pat answered the phone. I says, because I'm looking at a publication that shows a world record of 398,000. No, I got that beat. I had 597 at the time. And she goes, oh, no, that's not the world record. Oh, yeah, it is. I see it right here in Joystick magazine. She goes, no, those are 4 months old. And she said the current world record, she looked it up and she said 1,493,000. And I go, what? And later that night I called and Walter's on the phone and Walter speaks of it and I go, no way. And he goes, oh, wait, what? I go, no. I go, no. And I gave me the guy's phone number. So I called him. But again, he's a very friendly guy. We interacted. We talked about strategies, and I just wasn't prepared to tell him that he wasn't telling the truth. I found it too hard to believe that somebody was that much better than me. And but eventually, again, he and I met at Life Magazine, like I said. And I talk about him now. I mean, I'm friends with him. I'm friends with all of those guys. But I said I'll often do a panel discussion where I pick on the audience. I'll say, there's just one guy that I know from back in the day. I go, he's actually a really good guy. He's a hardcore, true Christian, help your neighbor kind of guy. He's got a wonderful wife. He's got 5 kids. I says, they're all going on to do great things. I says, he helps a lot of people. He has a legal practice. Matter of fact, he goes to, after church, he has a table set up, and you can come up there and bring him any problem you want legally, and he'll give you advice. He'll point you in the right direction. His pet charity is something to do with domestic abuse that he does a lot for. And everybody's always like this, wow, that's a great guy. And I go, yeah. I go, there's only one thing that really scars him. I go, can you imagine a guy like that? And he actually lied about a video game score back in 1982. He was a teenage punk.
Yeah.
And then everybody gets the gist of it. Because all the time I meet people and say, how do you talk to that guy? Oh, I don't know. So I tell people, I go, what did you do? And they go, what? What did you do back in your teenage years that you happy you didn't get caught for? Oh, I ain't telling you that. I bet you're not, So anyway, no, I do. I have a lot of fun with it, and he has a good sense of humor. And if he's there, if he's somewhere, he's been in Banning, man, I put it to him. He just sits there and takes it, and he just goes like this, But,
So one thing I want to ask, obviously John and myself are a bit younger, and I think we missed
really? You don't look younger.
Yeah, you're obviously still very young, but you were around in the true golden age of arcade games before the crash of the 90s and whatnot. I just want to know from like a first-hand experience, what was it like growing up in that time before the internet, when you have to learn from each other or learning techniques for yourself, like you getting a kill screen on Kong. There was no internet, there was no Donkey Kong forums to be hitting up. What was it like playing games then compared to now?
Yeah, it was what was years ago coined, you had to learn the game in the raw. It was just a raw game. Other than somebody in the arcade, if they were smarter than you, helping you, I mean, that was it. I don't believe there was, not for somebody who plays on the level that we speak, I don't think there was ever a magazine article anywhere on any game that would help you get to that level. It was entertainment. But in the arcade, I mean, arcade games were awesome. First of all, they were an introduction to something to many people, including me. It was really intimidating. I mean, this thing called a computer. It's like, ooh. So now you could play the computer and have fun. And although arcade games were absolutely unbelievable, it was the arcades where you brought all of them together in that atmosphere. I mean, that was all the rage. You can look it up, and it's very, very well documented historically that during those golden age of arcades, and every arcade was like a rock concert. It was filled. It was a fire trap. But the music industry and the movie industry took a significant financial hit in those days because people's attention was so many other places. And so that's where everybody wanted to be. And I don't mean everybody played at that level, of course, because they didn't, but people enjoyed playing and people enjoyed watching. And so many arcades were intertwined with other activities, whether it was golf or go-karts and such like that. But the advantage that I had here was it was the world's largest arcade. That eventually was 1,200 games. Literally, the cocktail Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Junior Pac-Man, Super Pac-Man, they had nearly 100 of them under one roof. And the thing is, you think about a place that would house 1,200 games. How many people does it take to fill that? And I mean, it was elbow to elbow. I mean, you couldn't walk without brushing on people. It was so powerful. But what was so cool about it was 24 hours a day. That was obviously a tremendous advantage to me. And I wasn't the only one who was playing at that level, at that location at the time. But it was a tremendous advantage. If I was working, that was great. I never missed work. I never skipped school. And every other moment, I was either coming to or from or at the arcade, or at least that's what I wanted to do. And it was just something that captivated everybody and everything. And we used to laugh and make fun. There's this thing called a home game. Gee, did you see that Atari 2600 Pac-Man? Man, is that stupid or what? You know, nobody would admit they played it. I mean, nobody cares about home games. What, are you kidding me? And as the years went on and the tide turned, and of course, eventually, face it, the technology that you play at home was equal to or greater than the technology you find in the arcade. They obviously exist now, not because they can compete with, but it's more of a nostalgic, it's a passion, it's a hobby. It didn't matter where you were back then. You'd go in a doctor's office and there was a Pac-Man machine, you know, or you'd go anywhere and there was a Space Invaders machine. And everybody thought it would never, ever end. And
it still hasn't ended. It had a little nap maybe for a little while, but.
Well, it's funny you say that because I don't know the answer to this. Maybe you or some of the people listening do. Okay, the golden age of games were here. Yes, they were outrageous. It was unbelievable. You can't put your finger on it. Of course, nowadays, just so I stay on camera, they're here. Okay, but now because of arcades and things like that, places like Netherworld, you know, they're here and they have a passion, and people who now have money in their pocket that they can turn around and play and enjoy with their friends, their pastime is really cool. And the question is, it's more popular today than it was 10 years ago, 11, 12. Yeah. At what point was it actually the lowest before it began to do some kind of rise? And I don't have the answer. It was an interesting question. I wish I had the answer. And statistically, I don't know if there is an answer.
The one I also heard was E.T. is the cause of the fall. So maybe it was after E.T. on Atari. Yeah.
Well, it was E.T. and that infamous Pac-Man home game. Those two were the ones that were really the tank of the home video game systems in 1983. But then as far as like arcade sort of goes, it's sort of interesting looking at the history, because you obviously had that golden period in the 80s that you talk about, Billy, and then in the 90s you had Street Fighter, and that changed the landscape, because suddenly games became about, you know, head to head on the same machine. You weren't playing the computer anymore. You were playing each other. And that sort of carried games through to around the early 2000s. And it was at that point, that's when the home games started to eclipse the arcade games. And we sort of saw that gradual decline in arcades. Arcades started to shift more towards redemption machines, at least as over here in Australia. What definitely happened is all the arcades started to shift out all their video games because people said, I can play this at home. Why do I, put in $1 or 50 cents for every game I play when I can just buy the game at home and play it as much as I like? So that's when it started to become more about redemption games. And it's only been in the last, 5 or so years now that, partly due to nostalgia, there's been a shift now towards revitalizing all of these old games. There's now new versions of Space Invaders, new versions of Pac-Man coming out in arcades to tap into those previous generations, but also introduce a whole new generation to these classic games in a new environment that's going to engage them. Because unfortunately, the fact of the matter is that if you take a 13-year-old today and you sit them in front of a Pac-Man machine, they're not likely to go, this is the best game ever. They're going to go, this is, they'll play it for 10 minutes and then go, this is a bit boring. And they've got to sort of find ways now to revitalize these games for a whole new generation.
Right.
I might just sorry to interrupt.
I got a call from Walter.
Yeah, he's waiting, so I might chuck him in now if that's cool.
Okay.
What's
funny is you say that about a 13-year-old. Every day, somebody very kindly says something to me or says hello or
Tyson.
Shake hands. It's something that I tremendously appreciate. Well, my wife and I were walking into like an Office Max, and I could see some people pointing over by the store as I'm walking that way, and I got this thing. I'll say to my wife, I'll say, this is going to be a Pac-Man moment. And so I go and we walk in the store and we're walking around, and she and I are separated one aisle to the other. And suddenly she goes, Bill, these people over here recognize you. They want to say hi. I go, okay. And I go around and I shake their hand, and the guy goes, I knew it. It's him. I knew it. And he goes and he's like that. And he goes, I know you. I saw you, and you're in a movie and on TV, and you're the guy that's got the world record on ping pong. I go, ping pong? He goes, yeah. And I go, you mean Pac-Man? He goes, oh, Pac-Man too? So, I mean, I have a lot of those stories because, I don't know, the younger generation just doesn't quite hit it right. But it's really cool. We're going back to the barcades or restaurant arcades where now, like you guys, if you have kids, that would probably be your first chance to introduce them to a passion that was yours. Mm-hmm. Because they would have had a hard time finding a machine before, these recent years. And so I think that does draw a lot of, young people here. When we stream, I'm surprised at the young ages of people because it's a novelty to them. It's something new. So I think that's really, really good.
Mm-hmm. I think we have to take a second to welcome Walter to the chat. How you doing, Walter?
Nice to be here with you guys. I like your look. Tyson. It's a great look.
Thought we try and keep it professional.
It's clearly an 1885 Glasgow, Scotland landowner look.
That's exactly what I was going for, the land baron look.
Exactly.
Yeah, but Walter, you're the only one not wearing a tie. Take a look at the quality of these 3 ties.
Well, I like it. I like your look too, John. And your look's very cool, John. Except, John, let me see. Say something, John. Get on the big screen here.
Hey, Walter. Good to see you again.
Okay, Tyson came up, not you. How does that happen?
He's using my microphone, unfortunately. We're in the same room, so we had a little audio issue. So unfortunately, we're a little bit late. We're just using the same microphone, so it's going to pop up at his face.
So Billy's son, who I call Buddy, and he calls Buddy and stuff, he's a great historian on different things. And so who in history do you think Jon Tannahill looks like? Well, right now on the small screen,
Looks like John Wilkes Booth.
well, no, in that direction, but I was going to say Doc Holliday.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
right.
that's true. Too.
Yeah.
I was going to Doc, definitely a 6-gun wielding, whatever. So, by is that a thing? Is that an actual wall behind you, or is that just a green screen? Behind you.
Walls.
Yep. These are real banners. These are real banners from BPAC last year. I got the Kong off. On this side, got the Oz Kong off, which Billy obviously won. We haven't talked much about that. We will get that in a tick. I got the Pinball Masters behind me, and then John.
Yeah, I've got the Australian Arcade Championships banner behind me. So that was the event that we ran on the weekend following the Kong.
Very good. And behind me, in all those boxes that look like I'm the biggest pizza box collector in the world, which I'm not. Those are trading cards. The trading cards actually are a physical phenomena. I mean, you can't see all the different dimensions and down the hall in the other rooms, but just absolutely, maybe 1.5 million trading cards are still here, which is amazing.
You know, there's so many trading cards that, I mean, we're starting to put them into a book now, so you just get the book. You don't have to get all the trading cards.
Todd Friedman's working on the 2nd edition of that book. That book's very cool. The 2nd edition, he's working on it.
I think Tyson and I will have to wait until about the 10th edition before our trading cards make it into a book.
I think that's possibly true. There's going to be 200 more cards done in the 2nd edition that Todd's working on now. And then the year for 2000, it goes year by year. Then the Superstars of 2013, that'll be another 200 cards. But 2014 really bit off more than it can chew. And it attempted to just create a lot of cards. And we numbered out the sequence of 1,600 cards for 2014. But I think we only got to about 700 or 800 of them.
Wow.
And even that was a miracle. 2015, I think we had 400 cards. It was 300 cards. But and then 2019, last year, we had 300 cards because we really filled up a lot of different categories of cards, because things like the Australian Kong off and stuff like that there created about 50 cards alone, just that one event. In the course of the year, I think we did like 14 events. It wasn't quite a record. One time in 2012, we did 17 trading card award ceremonies, including at the Smithsonian Institute and all sorts of places.
Do you have a rough number of how many cards you've done in total?
You chose the correct word, rough.
Rough.
Because we actually don't know. We're getting close to the beginning to know, but we don't know yet. Because just in the last week or so, I've been going through past years. Because what would happen is this. Since I'm a one-man job, a one-man firm, that means I'd have to write most of the stuff, lay out most of the stuff, run around and do all the organizational stuff for trading cards, and then their correlative award ceremony, and then making all those awards and all the seals and ribbons of signing and posters and all that kind of stuff. It would become such a big deal, and that as it became more popular and more award ceremonies were set up, I'd find that some cards that were in different preliminary stages of design would get left to the side because we would have to focus on the specific cards and their respective awards for the people who are actually going to show up at the event. So therefore, I've recently been going through cards that were either completely finished, but they were never printed because the people didn't show up at the the award ceremony. So they were set beside. So I've been going back and finding, I think like in 2017, I think I've unearthed about 35 of the cards for that year that were still there in different stages of disrepair, waiting to be finished or just printed because they're already finished. So a lot of cards get left to the wayside, and then I'm finding them now, and people have been donating money. So if anybody out there is watching this want to donate some money, I'll be able to print another couple dozen cards that have been to the wayside for many years. Like I know in the year 2015, I think it's like about 35 cards. It was a 400 card set, There was actually 408 for 2015, but about 35 of them never got to print.
So we're talking
Browsing
a few thousand, 10,000, tens.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't finish that. I didn't finish my didn't finish my big narrative here. My big I'm too tired tonight. I can't think of the right words.
Oh.
Okay. Anyway, I believe that I've designed close to 5,000 cards.
That's
And
a
we're absolutely certain now with what we just finished in the last few weeks that there's over.
But they're not all video game cards.
Oh yeah, it's not all video game. The over 2,500 cards are in print and in people's hands around the world. About 5,000 have been designed. But one of my other big loves is science fiction. So I have trading cards for like H.G. Wells and Jules Verne and Isaac Asimov and other people you might have heard of, like William Gibson or
Arthur C. Clarke.
who?
Arthur C. Clarke, 2001: Space Odyssey.
Arthur C. Clarke's card is coming out right now. It's actually being printed the next day or two.
Awesome.
For all these years, I couldn't get an image that I could use because I don't just go and grab just any image because I don't want to violate private property. So, but you'd be amazed by how many of the images that are out there. Over 99% of the images that I use are all in the public domain. All in the public domain. But for ones that aren't in the public domain, I don't generally mess with them. There's a few times I went just on the edge. But what I did is I used, for instance, a few days ago, Hugo Gernsback. I don't know if you know science fiction too much, but there's an award called the Hugo Award. It was named after Hugo Gernsback. And I finally made a trading card for him because I found the guy. It turns out that the photography company in Boston that photographed Hugo Gernsback in 1937 still exists and has been in operation like in their 5th generation. They started in 1868 and they're still a photography company downtown Boston. So they're going to let me use the picture on the card for $25. So that's happened numerous times that I scored a nice picture and it's only 25 or 20 bucks or something like that. So
When we have panel discussions, one thing I try to do is I try to have Walter throw out something that's shocking, because the people and their place in the industry and how they've participated is so vast. Walter, I want you to tell Tyson and John somebody you did a card for, because every once in a while he'll do a card for some dignitary that you think, oh, but they flip out at the fact that they got a trading card. I mean, I can think of a couple names, but I want you to pick one, Walter.
Well, Billy knows that Ralph Baer, who's considered the father of video games, was being interviewed one day by a film crew. And he had just received this card, not that too recently. And it was there on a little stand-up pedestal on his, if I remember right, it was on a stand-up pedestal on his desk. And then as the interview continued onward, he suddenly stopped talking and picked up the trading card and said, you know, of all the things that I ever dreamed could happen to me in the course of my life, I never dreamed that I could be on a baseball card. And that's what Americans think of as baseball cards, because that's where the whole concept originated, with the sport of baseball in America, way back a long time ago. First, they were called trading cards. First, they were called tobacco cards, and they were called trading cards. Then they became baseball cards. And they're simply amazing. So there have been numerous times when people who are very prestigious, like a very famous science fiction writer, the man who invented the expression cyberspace, William Gibson, last May, 14 months ago, I gave him his trading card in front of a big crowd of science fiction authors down in Los Angeles when they held what they called the Nebula Award ceremonies. And despite his incredible fame and despite his prominence in society and culture, he was just blown away by it. It was just one of the best, biggest things ever. I think he says something like it's cyber surreal and amazing, because he never would have dreamed he'd be on a baseball card. And
But you think about somebody like that, you think about Nolan Bushnell, you think about Ralph Baer, and all the outrageous milestones that they created in an industry that's going to live forever. And the thing that flips them on their head is that somebody actually made a trading card after them. That's wild.
Well, I know, Walter, made a trading card for both Tyson and I last year. And for me, that was so special for me. That was when I first started playing, Space Invaders is sort of my specialist sort of game. When I first started playing that was one of the things I was like, maybe eventually I'll be good enough at this game and I might be able to get a Walter Day trading card. And, now that's a reality. And, I've got mine, propped up on my bedside table. We've actually got a message here from Mark Bell, who runs a gaming podcast down in Sydney called Game the System. And he just wanted me to pass on to you how much the trading cards mean to him and, and the community in general, and how much it has influenced all of us. It's fantastic what you're doing in recording this history, because that's what it is. It's the trading cards record history and document all of these fantastic individuals who have contributed towards the community over the years. And he just wants to sort of say to you how much that's appreciated by everyone that you're doing that. It's a fantastic thing that you've done over the years, Walter. And it's fantastic that you're still able to do that and producing cards. I hear you've got the big lot this year. You've just done another few hundred cards. It's just great to see that people are being recognized for what they're contributing.
If I can go off John's point, during the award ceremony at BPAC, I had no idea I was going to be getting a Walter Day trading card, and it had been a dream of mine for at least a couple of years at that point, ever since I'd really heard about them. And I had to hold back tears on that stage. It really is a beautiful thing, man. So thank you for that.
well, thank you for thanking me. And I want to thank Billy too, because Billy's like a major spiritual force behind this whole thing. Even though you always associate it as the Walter Day collection, thanks to Billy for all the drive and honor that he brings to all the ceremonies and everything that we do. Now, before you take over the stage, Billy, let me make a comment on what Jon and Tyson have just said. One of the very dear things to my heart that you just said was your appreciation that the trading cards are like in the old movie business, it was called Cinerama. In other words, from sea to shining sea, and what they say in old American lore, like that, from the Pacific to the Atlantic. In other words, the trading cards attempt to embrace the entire culture and then go beyond and make the culture greater and greater and greater by bringing to the forefront all the most wonderful features of the culture, by highlighting the most wonderful people who have done the most wonderful accomplishments. When I first started, there were numerous people who became very disgruntled with me, very unhappy with me, actually went into attack mode, because the trading cards were not just about them and their high scores. They wanted the trading cards to be a Congressional Medal of Honor. That's the biggest award in America, military, the Congressional Medal of Honor. It means highest level of valor. The deep concept behind that is that you're completely surrendering and willing to give up everything, and they consider giving up your life to be the paramount thing. So the Congressional Medal of Honor is the highest level of honor. So they wanted, because of whatever problems with their own self-image, they needed a Congressional Medal of Honor to feel better about themselves. And they got extremely excited when they found out they're going to be in a trading card. But when they found out that other people who they considered less than themselves were also going to be on trading cards, they went ballistic. They went ballistic because they were so disappointed, and they considered me as having betrayed them because their Congressional Medal of Honor had been snatched away from them. And it suddenly was no longer about them and a couple other deserving people who had elaborately high scores or something. And I made that choice. I knew what I was going to run into. It wasn't going to be an award for just a person's high scores. That was very, very important to be honoring people for high scores. You guys have been honored for high scores, but the awards, the cards also had to recognize the culture of our time, because we are the people who brought about the birth of the cyber age. We are the first generation of gamers, you know, and what we're doing is we're recognizing that amazing achievement, that very commendable accomplishment, that amazing contribution, and we're recognizing it a picture at a time, a card at a time. And so you've heard me say on different things, I think, this analogy. When you go into an old monastery and you see one of those big, big carpets hanging on the wall that have a picture, a big colorful picture in the carpet, it's a tapestry, they call it.
Yeah.
But that tapestry and that picture is made up of thousands and thousands of very colorful threads, all interwoven together to make that picture. And that's what the trading cards are. They're a tapestry of the amazing phenomena we've all gone through, being the ones who lifted up this little, it was just a little impulse, just the beginning with Pong, whatever, but it's traveled to such amazing, it's grown to such amazing dimensions. And that picture of that story is all those threads woven together, and those threads are us. And those trading cards attempt to capture each one of our stories so that someday the trading cards will be a very fabulous research tool and educational tool for people down the road. So they're not just about collecting baseball cards. It's all about something that's going to mean something very dear and important to future generations, and we're all part of it.
Well, I often speak of it, and I often say that, like, for example, we spoke about Life magazine, okay, but there at Life magazine, there was a photographer who, for no reason, took up the courage to go and photograph and document this first ever, you know, video game competitors. There's the people, the person that owned the arcade. There's the people who worked there. Okay, the games were supplied by a distributor. The games were created by somebody. There were people that worked there. There were people that organized the event. Pull any one of those out, and you don't have a clear picture of history. And what we talked about at Life magazine would not have happened.
Yeah.
So, although certain people get credit for certain events that happened, there is so much that goes into an event to create it, and it's literally unbelievable. And by creating the cards, as you say, or I think John said, it's history. And when history is documented, when it's in writing, especially when it's a collector's item, then history is never lost. So many of the people that we look at or that we honor, if we didn't bring the fact that, yes, in Chicago, yes, you had that pinball tournament, yes, things that are obscure in the left in just a few obscure memories, they would die forever. Because it's documented and it's put in a collectible, honorable manner like this, in the history, that person's participation, and ultimately that person will live on forever. And that's like, it's so cool to think about it that way.
It is cool. I don't want to keep talking about this, but we might need to move on to some other things. Mainly, we didn't talk about it at the start, but obviously the reason that we're doing these little sit-down chats, as much as I would love to see you guys in person again, the state of the world right now, I don't think I need to explain what's going on. It's all very rough. And so actually, as of this recording, it was supposed to be pretty much the Kong-off, and BPAC was starting as of yesterday, Friday, which is still Friday for you guys. But yeah, this is when BPAC was supposed to be going on, and obviously
Kong-off was supposed to be right now.
Right now, yeah, this was supposed to be for us when Kong-off is starting. You guys were at BPAC last year. Billy, this belt that you've got there, this fantastic belt, that was because you won the Kong-off last year. That was your first Kong-off, right? Because we're not the only country with a Kong-off. Obviously, it started in America. This was your first Kong-off victory?
Yes, the first place victory, my first trip to Australia, and I'll let you talk.
No, that's good. That's what we wanted to know. That was your first time to Australia. First of all,
Yes,
did you enjoy it? Did you have a good time?
Oh, yeah, I think Australia is an incredible place, and I'd love to go there again and again. I would like it much better if it was closer, but it's not. Let's see, I left here on Tuesday. and I arrived on Thursday. That's just the way the world works.
Yeah.
And then we had to start playing right away. And I got a lecture from one of the people on the Zoom call here about how the fatigue would have such an impact on my performance. But of course, we didn't let that happen. So
You were in fine form on the weekend. You were pretty in like unflappable. One of the things that really amazed me, and this goes back to, we've mentioned a couple of times, the things that you guys do for the community. But if those who've never seen Billy play live, it might be a little bit daunting to come up and try and ask for an autograph or a photo or something like that. But there's this beautiful thing you do where you're playing Donkey Kong, and there's someone who comes up to you and they want an autograph, or they want a photograph, or you see that they want an autograph and a photograph, and you get them, and you're like, yep, just wait 1 second, and you get up to that rivet stage, and you finish the rivet stage, and you know that you have roughly about 10 seconds, and in that 10 seconds, you get up, you shake their hand, you get the photo, you get the autograph, and then you're back down, and you haven't lost a beat. Did that take a lot of practice, or like it's phenomenal to watch?
Well, I'll tell you where I actually learned that was, I had a guy invite me to New York. He said he wanted me to be at his theater, and I had reason to go to New York. So I said, okay. And I went to New York, and there's a game up there kind of elevated and separated, and it's roped off. So I stand there and play, and sure, people are like this trying to watch the game. And I started at like 6 o'clock, and I played till like 11, and then it was over. And I thought, well, okay, all right. No, man, the claws came out, and man, the hate mail came out. I traveled 4 hours all the way there to see this guy, and the bastard can't even turn around and say hi. Didn't even get to talk to him. Who the hell do you think he is? But it really was a life lesson for me. The least important thing I do when I go to conventions is play. That's the truth. Interacting with the crowd is awesome. So that's the moment in Kong that comes every 6 boards where you have that time. And I absolutely will never tell somebody, and I never have in the streets and in my everyday life. I've never said no to a question, a handshake, an autograph, a selfie, anything. I always promised myself that I would never unappreciate that, and I haven't. So yes, the question was, how do you do that in Donkey Kong? In Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man and various games I play, it's easy. I park it in a hiding spot, and Donkey Kong just doesn't afford that. So there's that one moment, and very often I'll have somebody with me, and they'll say, this guy wants to say hi, or he wants a selfie, and I go, okay, tell him stay right here. And I always say, because they don't understand the game, I say, at the end of the blue board, I say, you got to be ready, and they say, okay. And I turn around and I do it real quick, and I go back to it. And as you're saying, for some reason, and it's very flattering to me and to any game player, for some reason, they get such a charge out of the fact that you interrupt what you're doing, what you're there for, what's important, and what you're under pressure for, to turn around and give them that respect. And that is just so awesome, because what I enjoy more than anything, I say it, it's literally a sickness within me, is I know about the persona. I know, the bad guy. Someone will say, oh, excuse me, and they're like afraid to approach you, and I'll, what do you want? And I'll play the persona, but in the end, I interact with the person, and they walk away 180-degree different because exactly that reason. And to create that sharp contrast, I get an absolute kick out of it. It's like, I don't know, it's awesome. I'll do it again. I'll do it again and again and again. And playing at the game and giving respect and time to those people is part of it. Absolutely.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you want to support the guests in whatever way possible, I'll make sure to pop down some links below in the description of this video. If you want to support us on social media, I'll also pop those links down there. Make sure to hit like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos. Cheers. See ya.